I'm Deborah Farrick with some breaking news. A powerful magnitude 8 earthquake off the Solomon Islands in the Pacific, South Pacific, has triggered a 3-foot-high tsunami, described by one official as significant. Immediate evacuations were ordered for people living on the eastern coasts of New Caledonia and the Loyalty Islands. Both are south of the Solomon Islands near Australia. There are no reports so far of injuries or damage. A tsunami warning is still in effect for the immediate area, and a tsunami watch covers a larger zone, including the Marshall Islands and New Zealand. CNN international meteorologist and weather anchor Ivan Cabrera joins me now. Ivan, are people tracking the wave? What's the latest?
So basically, Deb, there's a series of waves when we're talking about a tsunami here. The initial wave sometimes isn't the most destructive here, so there's going to be several here. And depending on the orientation of the slope of whatever shoreline it arrives, that will depend on the destruction. Now, we do have a significant change here in that we have the depth has been revised. So what happens is you get new data coming in from either the tsunometers and just the network that we have in the Pacific to bring us more information. The seismologists will review the data. Initially, we have this at 5 kilometers. That is very shallow. And I'll switch over to miles here because I know we're on the U.S. network now. So that's about 3 miles. That is very shallow. We have revised it now, or they have, so we're now talking about 18 miles deep. That will make a difference. It should make a difference in fact, the effects it has on the shoreline, because the wave will likely be a bit smaller. We already understand that there has been damage in some shorelines, so we're not trying to minimize this. But what I'd rather see is the change that we have, which is the earthquake occurred deeper as opposed to more shallow. But it was a major, in fact, a great earthquake at 8.0. Sometimes you can go through a year without getting one of these here. So as a result of this happening underwater in the Pacific Ocean, at the magnitude it did and at the depth that it did, tsunami warnings have been issued, and we have multiple territories and countries that are involved. One of them is Australia, also New Zealand, obviously, as well, in that warning, Deb.
Yeah, and Ivan, let me ask you, because the Solomon Islands are part of what's known as the Ring of Fire. It's an area that's subject to a lot of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. This area has been hit several times over the last week with earthquakes that are registering 6 or above. What is going on in this area right now?
Sometimes you actually can get what we call the foreshock or pre-shock. It's an indication of what is to happen. With the Japan earthquake, we had a 9.0 there. We did not get a foreshock there. But with this one, about an hour before the event, before the 8.0, we had a 6.3 earthquake. That in itself would not trigger tsunami watches and warnings because of just the sheer magnitude is just not strong enough. Usually the threshold is 7.0. So that 6.3 happened an hour before the 8.0. And then, of course, when you get such a significant event like a great earthquake, you can have these aftershocks continuing and continuing. The difference is that because we're kind of in the middle of the Pacific Ocean here, I think that the aftershocks will be less significant because we have less populated areas around the region, so that a 6.0 isn't going to be as significant. The main event here is the tsunami warning, and we are still and will likely be a while here before we can tell you the scope of the damages along these shorelines. This is not Japan where we had live cameras throughout the event. That was just incredible here. This is going to take a while to get the information out.
Okay, and Ivan, stand by, because now I want to bring in CNN meteorologist Chad Myers, who is joining us right now on the phone. Chad, what are you hearing both about the quake and the tsunami from your end?
Well, it was a 3.0-foot wave as the closest approach to the wave. And typically the wave will be the greatest nearest the epicenter. So if that's all we get is 3.0, we're in very good shape. Although we do know that villages have been destroyed near the earthquake. Now, those villages may have been destroyed from the shaking alone. An 8.0 earthquake is a tremendous quake. And in fact, we've had 13 aftershocks of 5.0 or greater. 2 of those aftershocks are 6.0 or greater. This is an area, though, that's used to earthquakes. You called it the Ring of Fire. Back in April of 2007, this area, about 400 miles from this area, had an 8.1 earthquake, which did some damage as well. So not out of the question that we will see more aftershocks, but the tsunami warning and the watches, I want to stress, they do not affect Alaska, British Columbia, California, Hawaii. They do not affect the United States or North America right now whatsoever. And we're talking to the Joint Typhoon Warning Center and the Tsunami Center out in the Pacific. They do not believe that the United States will be affected at all.
What's incredible, Chad, is that this is an area where you've got hundreds of islands that are scattered there, and they they touch the coast of Australia pretty much if you're sort of thinking just geographically. We heard that there was a 6.4 magnitude aftershock. How does that affect any potential tsunami? You're talking about something that's right now 3 feet high. One official did call it significant. When somebody calls it significant, specifically, what are they trying to indicate?
Well, the 6.4, to start with your first question, all that will do would be to rattle the psyche of the people around there. They've already felt the first quake. Now they saw the tsunami come into their village, and they've moved away from that village. Feeling another earthquake. They don't know how big it is. They don't know if it generated another tsunami, so they're going to want to stay away from their villages. A 6.4 in itself will not generate another big tsunami like 3.0 foot you've found so far. I don't maybe believe that this 3.0 will be the greatest number we see. If you get a bay that almost looks like a crescent moon,
sure,
you can accelerate that wave into that bay and make that wave higher. We just don't know those villages yet.
Okay. Ivan and Chad, thank you so much. And there are some of the islands that are being told to get away from the coast. Stay with CNN for updates throughout the night. Anderson is back next with The Ridiculous.